Welcome to Canvas of the Heart, presented by Free Arts for Abused Children of Arizona. The mission of Free Arts is to transform children's trauma to resilience through the arts. This show is a collection of conversations that spotlight the ways Free Arts creates hope for children and teens who've experienced abuse, neglect, or homelessness. We hope you find this show to be informative, inspiring, and fun. All right, we're back. Canvas of the Heart, your favorite friends.
Hi.
I'm here with Jenna and Beth.
Hello.
You're not new to the podcast. You've been here before.
I have.
Yeah, so you know the rules.
Welcome back.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Because today we're talking about the power of choice. So Jenna did not want to just only have me to talk to about this one.
She chose to have a buddy.
Yes, I exercise my right to choose to have you on here.
Yeah. To not talk to you, Matt. Yes. And that's okay. All right, so let's just frame up our discussion here, because we are doing some episodes for the month of May on mental health. And as we brainstormed, where does Free Arts in our podcast intersect with mental health, a couple concepts came up and this bubbled up. And then immediately when we started talking about choice as a topic, I immediately thought of how Beth talks about this regularly in programs. So we'll come to that in a second. But to kind of center us, we want to talk about choice in why it's important at all for all of humans, right? What makes us all happy, healthy humans. And so choice goes all the way back to basic attachment, right? When we are born, we are dependent, and the quality of our early caregiving and nurturing sets us up. It's probably a myth that there's any single person that is securely attached. Most of us are a little anxious or a little avoidant. And then some of us are very disorganized, meaning we fluctuate between all of them, and we are constant. And a lot of tools and resources to kind of figure out where you might be wired, but most often you can figure it out when you have some relational difficulty and what's the constant messaging.
Yes.
And if you can think like, what's the message I'm hearing? So like for some people, it might be they're about to leave me and I'll be alone, right? That is an anxious attachment style popping out that is trying to manage, and will I be abandoned, right? And avoidant is, this is too much for me, I'm backing away. Like I've had too much of people, you're probably exhibiting some avoidant. And there are healthy forms of these things. There are times we should be worried. We were just talking about on another episode that anxiety is life, loving life. It's warning you, it's telling you we love being alive and we're going to try and keep us that way. There's some times where we've hit our max, right? We're outside the window of tolerance, and now avoidance might be a strategy to kind of bring us back. So that's early nurturing, that's attachment. How does it tie back to choice? Well, when we are as securely attached as we can, we get a unique experience as young people. We get to express our sense of self and explore what that is, right? And as we were recording this, we were talking about Beth's history of having very characteristic hair color and how long that's been going on and how useful that is to be able to find Beth when we need to find Beth. But that all comes from a sense of self, right? I only have envy for being able to dye hair at this point in my life. I don't have that choice anymore. But there are elements about us that we exercise all the time. And so attachment sets us up to explore a sense of self. And that sense of self gives us a voice, something to offer the world. All right, so when we consider attachment and its effect, right, when we're securely attached or as nearly, we have that opportunity to express self, to understand that I can put my voice into the world, that I can be heard and understood, that I can have preferences. When that doesn't happen, then we develop an impaired sense of who we are. And we're constantly trying to negotiate, what am I allowed to express that can be authentically me? And that causes us to develop some alternate ways of being in the world that take a lot of work, but ultimately rob us of our sense of self. And that can be very difficult, such that when you look at the road between being securely attached to having a sense of authenticity and then missing that opportunity, when we struggle for that, when we're trying to figure out who we are, when we're trying to struggle for even the basic sense of self-acceptance or acceptance from others, this is the pathway to some real difficulties with mental health. And ultimately, what you can generally work back from when people are really having difficulties with substance use. So substance use is a way for many to cope with the fact of, I cannot understand who I am. I can't be who I am. Or I never even tried to give that an effort. And it all starts with that sense of attachment leading to an authentic view of myself, because that view creates the opportunity to make your own choices. So when those are all taken away, causes some lifelong distress and some difficulty in functioning. And so that's kind of the basics here of what we're talking about with choice, is representing that it's a important part of self-expression. It's certainly part of general child development, but it ultimately has some huge implications across the lifespan. What do you all think about that?
Yeah, I think you're really hitting the nail on the head in terms of the foundation and where the idea of whether or not we do have the power of choice, where that really stems from. And when we're talking about attachment and we're saying with styles, those, our attachment styles stem from the connections that we've made. They stem from our experiences with other people, and our attachment styles shift over time. And so it's not even just to say that whatever started at the beginning, whatever style you had that you that was really representative of you as a child, is the same that's going to be as an adult with the different experiences that you have. So that, you may have a situation where there's a crisis where you never experienced the opportunity, you never had the experience where you did not have a chance to be your authentic self, but things change. And so it's speaking about also, it's almost like a spectrum that you start here, you can go there, and you can move back and forth with that ability. And so it's not as black and white as we would like for it to be, that either you have a choice or you don't, or that this experience means you're always going to be this way, you're always going to struggle. It can pop up at any point in time over the course of your life.
And you can check this out on other episodes when we talk about our outcomes and the free arts pyramid, where we talk about what we're hoping to accomplish with young people. Choice contributes directly to a couple, right? On that bottom is the sense of safety. Yeah, is the sense of safety, because think about all the places you've ever been. I hope not to provoke too much fear here, but if you are a person that doesn't like tight spaces, what is that ultimately about? Mm-hmm. It's choice. You have none. You're literally stuck. And for people, that can be very paralyzing, like keeps people from elevators and, bouncing right out of something that feels too crowded very quickly. So safety, both physically, but also emotionally, in the sense that I can operate as I am, and that people are not going to challenge my essential dignity or humanness for doing that. And then a little bit further up the pyramid, right? Self-efficacy, which is, fancy research or dialogue for I can do hard things. Mm-hmm. And the hard things in our lives can create meaning when they come from our own choices. So we all make and can make choices where we're involved in a difficult thing. People are like, I'm going to run a marathon. I've never run down the block before. That's going to be difficult, but you can do it. But it's most powerful when that's that person's choice versus what most people get in school, which is that running is a form of punishment, right? And other people pick that. But here, we think about it differently inside the programs. And so that's why we brought you, Beth. Talk to us about how choice factors into the programs that we offer here, how it's presented to participants, and how it's trained to the volunteers and mentors that work with participants at Free Arts.
Starting with how we train our volunteers, we spend some time talking about how choice is powerful. When you're a young person, you don't often get a ton of choices about where you go and when, and what you're wearing and when you eat or what you eat. And it definitely, I would say, goes doubly for children who are living in out-of-home care, which is a large portion of the population that we serve. So providing them choices as to if they participate and how, which is kind of a little bit different than a lot of the educational arts forms that they're learning in school. They're expected to do it. Like you said, It's like PE. You're just there and you got to do it. You have to participate. Free arts allows children to opt in or out based on how they're feeling, and knowing that changes day to day and session to session and minute to minute. I think another thing is they talk about giving opportunities for young people to choose to lead is a huge thing. So that can come into play when you set expectations at the beginning of a session. Those are things that everyone is agreeing to in order to make sure that we all feel safe enough to create and to participate. So allowing them to share what they think would help them feel safe is like a huge part of like, I get the choice to use my voice in that way. I think also another choice is like, hey, I need somebody to pass out supplies. You can choose to do that, or you can choose to have supplies passed out to you. Which would you rather do? So even just breaking it down into small choices gives them the freedom to decide like what degree they want to participate. And I think that's major. Yeah.
What are some things we do when it's choice after choice and somebody's really struggling to pick anything?
Ooh, good question. I think that's a time when the adult can kind of shift into the like recommendation stage for sure, based on that particular participant's like strengths or interests or kind of how they're feeling. If there is a lot of like paralysis, you can make a little bit of an offering of like, I saw earlier that you seem to really prefer to interact with people. Would you like to pass out the supplies? And then just a yes or a no instead of like an either or, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It makes some really good sense. And I'm glad that, it's a very important part of our programs, simply because when you have been in situations where you're not used to having choices,
right?
It's not something that automatically just comes to you. And sometimes we fear that choice because like,
feels like pressure.
Right. And so sometimes we have to do a little bit of guidance, a little bit of coaching just to get to that point where our participants have developed that freedom to say, yes, okay, I want to try this, and feel really empowered to do so.
So tell us what a participant looks and sounds like when they've gone from the I don't want to do this. And I know it's hard to describe, but there are people who get here because they were in the vehicle and they were told to come to Free Arts.
Yes.
We couldn't leave you by yourself. You have to come.
And the arc goes from that to like maybe being standoffish to trying a little bit to sometimes other things, right? Much bigger things. What's that like for people? What's some examples of that happening?
You want to take that one?
I can think of a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think really that ties into choice, like you said. They're in the van. We can't leave you by yourself, so you have to come. Like how the depth of which you participate is up to you, but you have to be here. And I think there is some of that, like I don't have a choice, so I'm not really excited to be here. So I think in the beginning, they're sort of sitting in that feeling. They're focused on the fact that they don't want to be here. And then they start to see maybe some of the other people around them choosing to participate. They start seeing adults choosing to interact with them and to keep offering, like, do you want to try? It's okay if you don't. And realizing that they have the autonomy to say no if they're genuinely just not feeling it. But they also have the safety to, like, give something a try and for there not to be, I guess, to fail safely, if that makes any sense. Yes. So they have the opportunity to give something a try, and it's not a huge deal if they don't give it their all. It's not a huge deal if it doesn't go the way they wanted to. And then they start buying in a little bit and getting more excited. And then they're more often choosing to participate because they feel safe enough to do so. Yeah.
And in our programs, we don't force anyone to do anything, even if there's a specific activity or prompt that is planned for that event. If someone wants to do something else, they have the freedom of choice to do that thing, whatever it is that they want to do instead of the actual activity that was planned. And that even goes a long way, because I think sometimes when you want someone to participate or you want someone to do something, it's the kind of default is to be a little more assertive and to cross over into demand, like, no, you're going to do this. And so then you're just meeting that force with just resistance, and then that just continues to. They're gonna what are they gonna do? They're gonna double down and be like, nope, I'm definitely not interested. And so, in having that ability and that flexibility that we demonstrate in our programs, is really what helps with that buy-in. Is because, okay, I'm getting over the fact that I'm angry or I'm upset or I'm disappointed that I'm here. And so once I'm allowed to feel that emotion and allow that to subside, and my cup is no longer as full, and I'm coming out of that dysregulated zone, I can kind of look and be more open and optimistic, but we allow it to happen during their time.
Mm-hmm. I think the ability to opt in or opt out is that safety net. Then, right. Knowing that you don't have to do it is like that takes the wind out of the resistance sails.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm. That's a nice visual.
Yeah, and in a way they're testing us without realizing at first that, if I choose not, is there going to be a punishment? Because there's some false choices given. Do you want to do this? The only answer is yes, right? And that can be a tough thing to think, like, I can really vote yes or no. And then they figure out very quickly there's consequences to the undesired answer. But we want people to operate and to engage in the program as it feels safe, and hopefully that will grow. I'm wondering for both of you how you think that choice impacts what we consider to be an empowered person or empowerment in general. How does choice contribute to that?
Yeah, I think that when you're giving somebody that authority to choose, that's where the empowerment comes in, because especially young people like our program participants, not being in a position of authority in so many domains of their life. And so when you're giving that opportunity, you're giving that chance to have, breaking down the term empowerment into power, and you're giving them that opportunity to say yay or nay. And when you have that and you're feeling that choice of empowerment, is like, okay, I'm going out of being passive to now I'm being active. I'm going now from just having things happen to me to now I'm the one making things happen. And it seems so simple, but it's so powerful when it actually emerges and you can witness it, especially in our programs.
Choices are all around us. So in what ways are we constantly choosing things in our environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We choose everything every single day. From we open our eyes, we make the choice. And by not making a choice, that's the choice that's been made. And I think we think of choice only as action, but the choice can also just be in the inaction as well. And so recognizing we're always making a decision about something. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes they're not the best decisions that are being made. But when you recognize how many choices there are, you always see that there's an opportunity for course correction. And so sometimes we get very overwhelmed by making a negative choice and thinking the worst case scenario without recognizing that you can still go back and change this thing, and you can change that thing, and you don't have to remain where you are because of one choice that was made a year ago, a month ago, a day ago, an hour ago. So just understanding that we're always making a decision about our lives, and we have more power and authority in that than what maybe sometimes the world shows us, because some people make larger decisions for us. So it's really helping to focus on the little choices that we can give somebody. They start to snowball and become bigger.
Right. Well, when we think about programming and the experience of participants, there's a whole other side, which is the mentors, the volunteers that we train. And this can be a departure for some that are used to thinking, I'm the adult, you're the child.
Yes.
And so I know what's best. So what do you do to help adults realize how we approach choice? Like, how are we flexible with them and modeling it? And how do we reason with them about our strategy here?
Well, that's a good question. I think one of the ways that we do that is we remind mentors, at least in training, to ask what you don't know, and to remind them that like there are things you're going to learn for children from children. About their experiences or about their interests. So like doing your best to not pretend like you know everything. Teenagers are very good at sniffing that out in particular.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like a sixth sense for them.
It really is. But also explaining really clearly like all of the things that we're talking about, that like choice is a part of building safety. And so providing children and other participants like that opportunity to opt in or to opt out, or to do something different, or to choose a different color or a different art form or something like that, really allows them to open up and start expressing their truest self. And that's usually what mentors are in the training for, is to learn how to provide children with that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's even going a step further from that, after you've built that sense of safety, it helps you to build that connection, because the connection and the safety are one and the same. They go hand in hand. And one of the things that I have mentioned in multiple forums when I'm speaking to some of our mentors or just adults in general, is that we would love to think that we know everything because we've been that age before. We've been a teenager and we know. But one of the things I make it a point to always say is, but none of us have been 15 in 2024. So though we may know what it's like to be a 15-year-old, your experience is going to be drastically different, because you were 15 in a completely different time than the kids that we're working with, the teens that we're working with. And so recognizing that they're experiencing the world completely differently than you are, and we have to be able to provide as much room for autonomy as we possibly can, because a lot of those liberties have been taken away.
Yeah, I think another thing that we try to communicate to mentors is to like tell participants when you trust them to do something. So even if it's like a drumming artist asks someone to model a drum beat, and someone does it and he goes, I knew you had it the whole time. Or like, I know I can depend on you to do X, Y, and Z, or I know that your skills are here, and like pointing out those treasures, and pointing out when they make a good choice, and encouraging them to continue. Just it helps build that like self-efficacy thing.
Sure.
Like an adult here thinks I've got it. I probably have it. I can try it again.
And the choice that we're praising isn't that you were the good drummer with the beat. It's that you
gave it a shot.
Took the risk.
Yeah.
That you showed up in the moment. You took the challenge, right? And it's important for us to like recognize what might be easy to us and difficult for others, and to praise that process. So we're closing up here in a few minutes, but I'm wondering about the paradox of choice. That was something you wanted to bring for us today.
Yes, because we talk about the wonderful aspects of the power of choice, but there's a flip side to that. And sometimes too many choices can produce feelings of fear and anxiety. And so when we're talking about what is the paradox and how are we managing it, sometimes that fear of making the wrong decision can become paralyzing within itself. And once again causes the inaction, which is then within itself a choice. And so we want to be able to minimize the level of dissatisfaction as much as possible with not having made what they would have considered maybe the right choice in that time, or that regret. And so so it's recognizing that in the work that we're doing with our kids and all of our participants, is that we give the room for anyone to change their mind in the midst of the work.
Yeah.
And so it's just really before like closing out, just giving that little nugget that you have to be a guiding light when you have, or be able to be a guiding light when you're providing choices to some people, and also providing that empathy and that care and that compassion in the event that I just made the wrong decision, and soothing them to say, yes, but you can make the right one the next time. And so the choice is great, but there's also that flip side of not knowing how to choose, or fear of that maybe you chose wrong, and recognizing you don't have to choose you're not going to choose wrong every single time. But I have going back to the phrase that you said earlier, Beth. Having that safety net for when you fail, and just being that for someone, because that paradox does exist as well.
Awesome. So it's a choice. It's part of our programming. It's by design. And it is done at the core because of understanding what our participants have been through and what it means to be a resilient adult, right? Or resilient young person exhibits choice. And then also, like you were just both saying, there are places where we need to identify that if I make this choice, it's recoverable. Like there are some choices that are not. We have to be very careful about that. And that might be where we do step in and say, think about this, right? We can't undo the impact if we make certain choices. But many of the things we're dealing with, right? It's just another slate that we bring in, another canvas that we can bring in and start over. And so I think that's a great way to think about choice. So as we wind up today, we have some other things to do. We want to acknowledge the new look of the room.
Yes,
right?
It's so beautiful.
It is. It's soothing. We went with a
super cool.
We went with a vibe.
It's the vibe.
It's the vibe. All the magic was, how does it look on camera? And I think we'll
Let us
find
know what you think.
We want to know what you think. But yeah, we wanted to give this texture and complement our graphics here. And then on a serious note, we don't know if this will air last in this series, but it's the last one we're recording in this series. But this is Jenna's last time in office on the podcast.
Yes.
So I'm wondering what you might want to share about what's next for you.
Yes. So, I didn't realize it would have been so difficult to talk about, but yes, this will be the last episode that I record on the podcast. I have had a wonderful ride being your co-host, Matt. And these 3 seasons have really flown by, and had a wonderful tenure here at Free Arts. And so for those who may not have picked up on the accent, I am originally from the Bahamas, and so looking to possibly relocate at least to the East Coast. Some new positive life changes are really occurring, and Free Arts will always be in my heart, and they're not going to get rid of me that fast. So you'll probably still see me from time to time, at least I hope, be able to engage and interact with all of the wonderful people who make Free Arts possible, including our listeners. So thank you for always tuning in, and I am looking forward to connecting with all of you later.
Well, we're really excited about what's in store for you going forward, and we're sad that you're departing, and we were just getting started.
I know.
So I'm just, laying on the guilt trip now.
That's your choice.
That's not enough. It is a choice. I'll stop doing it now.
I know, it's okay. There are a lot of feelings around this, and they're all so valid, and want to honor each feeling, because as positive as some changes might be, there's still that feeling of loss still in the mix. So made some wonderful, beautiful connections here that I will definitely carry with me no matter where I go.
So don't worry, because of the shift, it'll just be new people involved.
Nice little rotation.
We'll have some others here. We're not going to stop Canvas of the Heart.
No.
But thanks, Jenna, for your contributions and
Thank you.
sharing what you do so deeply and caring so much for the work that we do here. We'll miss you. Any final words for our listeners today?
Just continue to tune in. Just thank you for choosing us, and for continuing to choose us, and go out there and be your best self, because the world needs more of that, and it's only something you can give.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you all next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of Canvas of the Heart. We'd love to hear your questions and feedback by email at hello@freeartsaz.org. You can find more information about Free Arts by visiting our website at freeartsaz.org. We'd like to thank the many individual and corporate donors and the hundreds of volunteers that make Free Arts programs possible. Take care, and we will talk to you soon.